What was your biggest quote we need to leave now moment? When I was about 16, I went to visit my grandmother at her place. The smell of natural gas was intense, even though Nana didn't seem to notice it much. She was groggy, sort of half asleep, not her usual responsive self. So I made her get out of the house at once and opened the windows and doors. I called Dad, and he reported it to the gas company, who sent inspectors right away. They shut off the gas valve in the street immediately and sent a repair crew to fix a leaking joint in the gas supply pipe. The inspector said that if I hadn't acted then and there, the probability was great that there would soon have been an explosion. I've wrote about this before. I was in a mall in Indonesia and 2 tourists seemed to be having problems communicating with the cashier at a bookstore, so I helped translate. They wanted to buy me drinks to thank me. Told them it's not necessary and I have to get back to my mom soon. They told me to meet them for dinner. Told them I have to have dinner at home. They told me to sneak out and meet them after dinner. At this point, a bookstore staff noticed something was wrong and went up to question them. My sister and I dashed off while they were distracted. Continued wandering around the mall and realized they were following us. To see if we were just paranoid, we ducked into a lingerie store, since we figured 2 men won't usually need to go lingerie shopping together. They followed us in, ran so quickly back to the jewelry store our mom was at. The store had intimidating security guards and I guess that stopped those guys. I was 11, my sister was 10. Probably 2 months after my wedding, I invited my then best friend, maid of honor, to a party my husband and I were going to. She agreed. Sometime into it, I'm drunk and in the pool and my husband swims out to me to tell me she just asked him to sleep with her. I have never sobered up or left somewhere so fast. Showed up to a party, some people were outside fighting, my GF at the time and I decided to leave. Not long after that some guys that were a part of the first fight came back with more and a shooting occurred. Woodstock 99. Felt the energy of the grossly overpacked crowd, the building rage, and looked my friends and said we need to go. They stayed. I left. Shortly after fired and riots started and my friends lost everything they had with them. Tents, clothes, food, everything. When you have 300k people shoulder to shoulder in 104-degree humidity and charge $4 for a bottle of water and have half as many bathrooms as needed, you're gonna have a bad time. Met this cute girl at a party. Spent the whole night dancing and flirting. Offered to drive her home and she agreed. We were making out in the car in front of her house when another car pulls up with their headlights beaming at us. I ask if that's a neighbor and if we are blocking their driveway. She replies no, that's my husband. Husband's car door opens and I noped the fuck out of there. Dropped her straight back at the party and never saw her again. Her excuse was that they were separated and he shouldn't have a problem with it. I sure wasn't sticking around to find out. So I was waiting at the train station to pick up a friend of mine. I was early, so I decided to stand in the sun right outside of the station. A guy with a bicycle walked up to me asking in broken English if I knew how late the train would arrive. After I answered the question he stayed around and starting talking to me. Now I know that's not weird at all, but the things he asked and the way he acted and looked just gave me a creepy vibe. Eventually he asked if I would walk with him while he dropped his bicycle off. I didn't want to because the place to store bicycles at this station is very secluded, and to be honest I didn't want to be alone with this guy. So I noped out and walked into the station. He started yelling at me, calling me names, but at that moment the train came in and it got very busy, so he left. A few months later I read this article in the local paper about a girl being raped at the station. They had put a drawing of a guy next to the article as he was not yet caught. It was the same guy. To this day I'm very happy I didn't go with him. Grocery shopping with my grandma. She's tired, normal for her, but she's getting a bit slower and dragging her leg more than usual. At the checkout counter I saw her face was a little droopy and I said we are leaving now and going to her. They gave her a bottle of water for the car ride which she ended up choking on and vomiting up all the water. Called ahead to her, so they were ready and they took care of her as soon as possible. She was having a stroke and they were able to help her quick enough so that she didn't have any long-lasting issues. About 2 months ago I'd stayed up past my usual bedtime, and as soon as I got in bed I smelled something odd, and was hearing some inconsistent banging and clattering from downstairs. I don't live in a great neighborhood so none of this was unusual, but I got out of bed to check anyway, and saw flames licking up the side of the building. Yelled at my wife to get out of bed, and threw on some clothes and we hightailed it out. Our building has a shared wall with the next, and that one had an apartment on the ground floor fully engulfed by the time we made it outside. Ended up condemning the whole building. I was the first one to call 911. Have been jerking myself awake in the night pretty consistently since then. The owner of Mexican restaurant threw 2 young farm workers at the bar out to the parking lot. They were drunk as monkeys and proceeded to try to fight, but mostly just leaned on each other, all in front of the picture window, while the place is full of people. Then one runs to his trucks and burns rubber out there. I said time to go honey, she says what? Those assholes are done, and I'm not going to be here when the shooting starts. We left. It did. Not long after. I was waiting for an Uber on the outskirts of Atlanta with a couple friends around 10 p.m. We were just shooting the shit after leaving a nearby restaurant and talking about what bar to go to. A disheveled older man walked up a few feet behind one of my friends and struck a weird pose for 2 to 3 minutes while looking in our direction, and there was no one else around. Then he walked off without saying a word. He came back a few minutes later and sat down on the sidewalk about 5 feet away from us. At this point I'm just wondering if he wants something from us, because there was absolutely no other reason to plop down that close to us on an empty sidewalk. Then a small sedan pulls in a nearby parking lot, parking behind some bushes in the spot closest to us, and consequently furthest from any of the shops in that lot. I only noticed because I happened to be facing that direction, but then saw 6 guys pile out of the sedan and immediately cross the street directly towards us. I realized there were not any shops or restaurants still open nearby. It suddenly occurred to me that the strange dude might have been sizing us up when he was watching us earlier, and he came back to mark us. We were all dressed nice with smartphones out and watches visible, basically the fanciest stuff we had for a night out. Right as I started to speak up that we should head back towards other people, our Uber pulled up to the curb. As we drove away, I watched those 6 guys talking in a circle where we had just been standing, and then they crossed the street again and got back in their car. I'll never have a definitive answer, but I'm pretty sure we were 10 seconds away from some unfortunate shenanigans. Late afternoon in the summer, I'm waiting in the bus station near my house. Most businesses are closed, not a lot of cars in the street. Guy passes in front of me. He passes again 2 minutes later watching me suspiciously. Alarms start to go in my head screaming to me that I need to leave and get the fuck off here, but I ignore it since the bus will come in 10 minutes. Third time he passes he charges to me, pushing me to the wall with his cock out. I freeze for some seconds then start punching and kicking him. I manage to get away, and the rest is history. Yeah, trust your guts, guys. My friend invited me to a seminar. Everyone were dressed in white shirt and black pants with black shoes. I was odd one out in here. For some weird reason, they were praising founder as if he was some kind of god. When I went into the auditorium, they were showing how these 17-year-olds were earning 200,000 rupees in a month, which is equivalent in India, translated to about $3,500, with their own bikes, cars, and shit like that. Then it dawned upon me that this is eerily similar to one of the biggest scam in that used similar business model about 7 years ago at the time. I really wanted to move out as soon as possible. My brainwashed friend was sitting a few rows behind me. All of those involved in this marketing were required to do so for weird reason. It was cringy at best and exploitative at worst. Never caught up with him ever since. That friend of mine wasn't really bad person or anything. He didn't even force me to buy the product or anything. Maybe due to the fact that I studied in different city. The product seemed really good from outside, but the method of selling really looked like one for MLM. There was another person in that group who was from my school, didn't know him in any way, who forced one of my family friend, went to same school, to buy that product. He then resorted to swearing and abused her online for not buying the product. I'm not sure if it is a full-fledged MLM because the participants weren't forced to buy product in bulk. Probably because all of them were students. I don't recall the name of the company, so IDK how is that company still doing?